بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله، وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين الأبرار الميامين المظلومين. السلام عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى جميع المستشهدين بين يديك والسبايا من أهلك وذويك يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة. غريب يا مظلوم يا عطشان كربلاء، ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، وأمن من لجأ والتجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا فيا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه المبين: وما كان المؤمنون لينفروا كافة فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين، وجعلنا الله تعالى وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور المؤيد المهدي من آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. Brothers and sisters, when Al-Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, after living 35 years after the event of Karbala, he had been poisoned, he was dying, the sickness had spread through his body. They say he was lying on his bed in a great pain and suffering and very close to leaving this world. Imam Zain al-Abidin, he spent all of these years after Karbala weeping and crying for his father. So much so that when the attendant came and asked Imam Zain al-Abidin that, Yabna Rasulullah, all of these years have gone by. Years and years have gone by after Karbala, after the event where your father was butchered and martyred, and you are still crying like it's the day after this event has happened. Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says to him, Waihak, how can you say this? He says, Yaqub alayhi salam, he had 12 sons. How many sons did he have? And Allah took one of his sons away from him, Yusuf alayhi salam. And what happened to Yaqub? His back became bent, his hair became gray. He cried so much that he became blind, he couldn't see. And even him, Yusuf, was returned back to him. I watched not only my father, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, killed in front of my eyes, but I watched my brothers killed, my cousins killed, my uncles killed. I saw the ladies of my family taken prisoners and paraded in the streets of Kufa, taken to Sham and ridiculed in the court of Yazid la'natullahi alayh. I watched as all of this happened. Now after all of this life, Imam Zayn al-Abidin is at the end of his. He is about to return. He is leaving this world. He is going to the everlasting world in the Akhirah. He is lying on his bed, close to death. Al-Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam, his son, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Al-Imam al-Baqir bi-abi wa ummi, he is sitting right next to Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, next to his father. You know, when your father is going to die, you are sitting there next to them, holding them. You are putting your head on the chest of your father. You're holding your father, because your father will leave soon, this world. Imam Baqir, he is sitting like that on Imam Zayn al-Abidin. He's sitting on his chest, holding him, hugging him. Imam Zayn al-Abidin is weeping and crying. He's crying. Imam Zayn al-Abidin keeps crying, keeps crying, keeps crying. So Imam al-Baqir, Muhammad al-Baqir, he says, Ya Abba, my father, you are going to leave this world. You're leaving this world. You're going to go to the next world where your grandfather Rasulullah is waiting for you. Where your father Ali ibn Abi Talib and your mother Fatima Zahra alayha salam, they are waiting for you. Why are you crying so much? You're weeping so much. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says, Bunay, he says, my son, what can I tell you? Because right now I am dying. I am about to die. I am lying on the ground. And you are sitting here on my chest, holding me. But when my father Al-Hussein was lying on the ground of Karbala, who was on the chest of Abi Abdullah Al-Hussein? Shimr was sitting on the chest of Abi Abdullah Al-Hussein. There was nobody holding Imam Hussein at the last minute. The legacy that we have in front of us, brothers and sisters, today, we are the followers of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Salawat ala This legacy that you sit here today, it is the legacy that the Imams brought to us, that Al-Hawra Al-Aqila Zainab Al-Kubra brought to us. We are sitting here, this is a tradition that has been created by the grandchildren of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Ruhi lahu al-fida. And we are sitting here and we are very proud of the fact that we are followers of this house, followers of this Imam. But have we understood what Imamat actually means? For the last 2 nights we have talked about this history of Islam in some general fashion. And we have talked about how Islam spread, and that Islam, the religion that was brought by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, it was brought in such a manner that it requires each and every person to practice tafaqquh fi d-din. And the ayah of the Quran from Surah At-Tawbah, I have repeated it over and over. وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَّةً فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. The ayah of the Quran says that when the soldiers of Islam, the mu'mineen, the believers, it says the believers, when the believers go out to fight against the enemy who is assaulting Medina or threatening Medina or threatening the Islamic nation, not all of them will go. Some will stay behind. They will not fight. They will not join the battle. They will not do jihad al-asghar, the smaller jihad. They will stay behind and they will achieve what is called tafaqquh fi din, deep understanding of religion. They will study and study and study the religion such that when those soldiers come back, they will teach them. Or they will send teachers out to the Muslim ummah. And we talked about how Islam has spread, unfortunately, by the sword, by culturalism, by different philosophies that are not a part of Islam. And so we ask ourselves tonight, what is the role of the imamat in all of this? And if we call ourselves the Shia of the Imams, the followers of these Imams, we must follow their legacy. And we must not just say, yes, the Imams had all the knowledge, had all the guidance, had the best du'as, so we are going to read their du'as. Yes, we do all those things, but we must understand how they acted and in any given circumstance what they may have done. And the question always comes that we have 12 Imams, and they all didn't necessarily do the same thing. Al-Imam al-Hasan alayhi salatu was-salam al-Mujtaba, he made a treaty with Muawiyah. He had to. He had no other choice. He had no support. People were turning away. There was going to be bloodshed in the community, so he made a treaty. Imam Hussein had to fight. After Imam Hussein, the world changed even more. And we see that the Imams, in any given circumstance, any Imam would make the same choice as his forefather if he was in that place. But that doesn't mean that's the only option. All right? Imam Hussein, when he came to Karbala, and this is why I say to you, don't just cry for Imam Hussein with your heart and emotions. Cry for Imam Hussein with your heart and emotions and understand what he did. Understand every step he took, every decision he made, every move he made. It was calculated, it was thought out, it was wise. He didn't just go and say, I'm going to die. Abadan. It is not like that. Imam Hussein, he chose the moderate course. He chose the course. What were the choices for him? What were the choices? Go and hide somewhere. Yes? That's one. Go and hide. He could have gone and hide. Arabia is a big desert, lots of caves. He can go hide in a desert somewhere. Couldn't he? What is stopping him? Will they find him? No, they will not find him. That's one option, extreme. The other extreme is he pulls out his sword and immediately goes and fights, starts killing. In Medina, in Mecca, anywhere he wants, he starts to kill. He could not do this. This man has fought in Siffin. He fought in Nahrawan. He fought with Amir al-Mu'mineen, his father. He is a warrior. You don't think he can pick his sword and go kill people? Imam can do that. But look at the wisdom of the Imam. He could have escaped and said, I'm going to go hide somewhere. That's one extreme. He could have said, I'm going to start fighting from day one. Pick my sword and start fighting. He has Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas with him. He has the brothers of Abbas. He has his companions. He has Ali and Akbar. He has all the people of Medina who support him. You don't think he can fight? He can fight if he wants. What does he do? He chooses the middle ground. And he comes up to Karbala, always trying to find a reasonable resolve to the situation. And that's why he said, إِنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشَرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا وَلَكِنْ خَرَجْتُ لِطَلْبَ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. You have heard me say this over and over in the last few nights, that I did not come out for injustice, I didn't come out for tyranny, I didn't come to spill blood, I didn't come to create disorder and chaos. I came to restore order in the ummah of my grandfather. And what was his choice? That when Umar ibn Sa'ad la'natullahi alayhi comes to him on the 9th day, they say Al-Imam Abi Abdullah al-Husayn is leaning on his sword. Al-Hawra Zainab al-Kubra alayha salam, she says, Abi Abdullah, he was kneeling in the sand of Karbala. And his sword, he was holding it like this, like a cane, and he had fallen asleep. He had drifted to sleep. All of a sudden, she taps him on the shoulder to wake him up. Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, he wakes up. She says, my brother, the horses are coming. Some enemy soldiers are coming, wake up. Imam Hussein wakes up. She says, my brother, what happened to you right now? He says, I fell asleep. He says, Ya Khayya Ya Zainab, in my dream, I saw my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And he was telling me that just a little while longer, Ya Bunayya Hussein, you're going to come back to us very soon. Just a little while longer. Now Umar ibn Sa'd, he comes to Imam Hussein. He says, your only option is you pay bay'ah to Yazid, you give the allegiance to Yazid, or we kill you. There's only two options. There's no other option other than this. Imam Hussein, he said, let me go. He says, if I am such a trouble to you, I have harmed you, I have done something, let me go, I will leave from here. I will go. Look at the imamat. He's not running to hide. He's saying, just let me go. I will do whatever I have to do peacefully and quietly and fulfill my duty as imam, as guide of the ummah, quietly, let me go. But they did not allow him to go. They said, no, we cannot allow you to go. You either have to give bay'ah or we will kill you. So now Imam Hussein has to take one extreme, and that is that he has to fight. His choice was not that extreme to fight. His choice was the middle ground. And that's why I say to you that when you follow the imamat, you have to examine the actions of these imams. And when you look at the actions and the lives of the imams, always you look at it in three periods. Okay, usually you can break it up into some different periods. Okay, one is the period that is right after Karbala. We know all before Karbala. But after Karbala, going from the 61st year after Hijrah, going approximately to 135 or 132 after Hijrah, this period, 61 to 132. Then from 132 after Hijrah to 206 after Hijrah, another period. Things change a little bit. Then after 206, things change even more. These three periods, if you study them and you look at what did our imams do in this period, you will understand tafaqquh fi din. You will understand why they are the given and the chosen of Allah in the earth. That their wisdom and their knowledge and their understanding of religion was so strong that everything they did ensured that today we are sitting here and the Quran we are reading, the Risala we know, the Salat we are doing is proper. Is it not? It is because of them. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, he did not, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He did not fight. When he was released from Damascus, he left, went back to Medina, and his job was to teach the people. What did he do? He spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He started to show people what is the true religion. What is the true religion? He started to remind the people. That was one. He started to remind people what is imamat. Brothers and sisters, imamat is a core belief of Islam. And we will talk about it in 2 more nights, inshaAllah. A little more on imamat. It is a core belief of Islam. You cannot be a Muslim and not believe in imamat. Okay? I'll explain this to you more in 2 nights, what this means. That imamat is an essential belief of Islam. Every Muslim believes in it. Every Muslim, not just a Shi'i. Every Muslim believes in imamat, right? It is in the Quran. The word imam has been used in the Quran, so you must believe in it. Every Muslim who reads the Quran believes in it. So that was 2. Imam had to remind the people about what is imamat. And the third thing he had to do is very selectively show to people where true imamat is with him and with his children and the people chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now he has to do this slowly, slowly. And he does this by giving you Sahif al-Sajjadiyah, the dua, the munajat that he has left for you. He didn't leave for you a war plan, did he? Did he leave you a plan on how to go and kill people? Or how to steal money? Or how to build wealth? Did he give you that? Was that his plan? He could have left you a guide and said, this is the strategy to defeat your enemy. This is the strategy you employ to gain wealth. This is the strategy you use to gain an upper hand on those who want to oppress you. He didn't write any of that. Instead, he left you with a manual of dua on how to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, if you go read Dua Abu Hamza al-Thumali in Ramadan, what does he say? He says, Bika araftuka wa anta dalaltani alayk wa da'awtani ilayk wa lawla anta lam adri ma ant. Only Imam can speak to Allah like this. Bika araftuka. Allah, it is only because of you that I know you. Otherwise I would not know you. Bika araftuka. وَأَنْتَ دَلَلْتَنِي عَلَيْكَ وَدَعَوْتَنِي إِلَيْكَ. Allah, you are the one who told me how I can find you, how I can speak to you. And you are the one who told me that I should call your name. وَلَوْلَا أَنْتَ لَمْ أَدْرِ مَا أَنْتَ. Allah, if you had not showed me where you are, I would not know how to call you. I would not know with what words to call on you, Ya Allah. If this is what Imam is leaving for us, if this is what he is leaving for us, we should ask ourselves as a Shia, what is the goal of being a Muslim and of being a follower of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam? Deepening. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Deepening our connection to Allah. Deepening our feeling of servanthood to Allah. Just read the Sahif al-Sajjadi al-Kamila. Read those munajat of Imam Zainul Abidin. Now as he taught and taught, during the time of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, the door opened a little bit. The Banu Umayyah, they were becoming weak because they had corrupted the system, they were usurping money, they were stealing, so the people started to see their true side. So people began to revolt, particularly in Medina. Now in the time of Imam al-Baqir, the son of Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, things are a little open. Now what Imam Zain al-Abidin could not do in his time, which was openly discuss things, now Imam Baqir alayhi salam is sitting in the masjid of the Nabi and he is teaching the people. And even so much so that Ikrimah, a man named Ikrimah, he comes from Syria, and he says, I visited Medina and I went to the Masjid al-Nabawi and I sat down in the Masjid al-Nabawi and I was listening to this teacher and I didn't know who he was, and all I know is the hairs on my skin began to stand. He says, I began to shake like this, I began to shake. Because I had never heard and never understood knowledge truly until I had heard this teacher. Tell me, what is knowledge? So when I started to shake, the teacher, he turned to me and he said, my friend, what is wrong with you? Why are you so anxious and shaking like this? He says, I have never heard knowledge like this. I have never heard and never understood knowledge until you have explained this to me. Who are you? He says, I am from that house. I am from that house, the one about which the Quran says, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال. There are some houses in which Allah has given the permission that His name should be taken. And they call His name in the morning and in the night. And when someone asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam about this ayah, they said, Ya Rasulullah, whose houses are these? Special houses that Allah has given permission to. He said, that is the house of Fatima to Zahra and Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhim as-salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Imam Baqir, he says, I am from that house. That is the house I am from. That's the house I am from. This door that Imam Baqir opened, that Allah opened, it built a school, didn't it? A school in which now Al-Imam As-Sadiq has even more freedom, because in the year 132, I told you, 61 to 132, things were a certain way. In 132, Banu Umayyah is gone. They are overthrown. In their place, the Banu Abbas now come. Now, I will stay with Imam As-Sadiq a little bit. Banu Abbas, they come into power, and they have to be a little tricky in how they assume the power. Because their motto, their slogan, is that we are the family of Rasulullah. We are Banu Abbas. We are the children of the uncle of Rasulullah, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. So we have relationship to Rasulullah. Banu Umayyah, they were criminals. They took it illegitimately. We are the family of Rasulullah, so you must follow us. So now, claiming that they are the family, they have to be careful with the children of Fatima Zahra, the children of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. They have to be careful. So now there's a little opening. Al-Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam starts to teach. He starts to teach. As he is teaching, one lesson he teaches the followers of the Ahl al-Bayt is a very great one, in which one day he is asked, they say, Ya ibn Rasulillah, describe for us some good qualities of a believer, of your Shia. He says, our Shia, they have what is called muruwa. Muruwa. And this is related through Al-Imam al-Hasan, what I am telling you. He says, one of the qualities is called muruwa. Muruwa is a very hard word to describe in English. Very hard word to translate into English. Okay? It means like generosity of soul, generosity of your whole self. That's a very loose translation. So somebody asked, Ya ibn Rasulillah, what does it mean? What does it mean? Imam says there are 5 things you have to do. And I am mentioning this now because again, our whole theme is at-tafaqquh fi ad-din, deep understanding of religion. So we can cultivate inside ourselves the akhlaq, the manners, the personality that we truly represent what is the followers of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam. The first thing Imam says is hifdh-ud-din. Protect your religion. You must protect religion. Begin with yourself. Don't lose your religion. Don't lose your aqeedah. Make sure you follow what you believe to the T or as best as possible, and don't lose that deen for anything. Hifdh ad-din. Number 2, i'zazun nafs. Respect yourself. You wouldn't think that this is a quality of someone who is honorable in the eyes of God. But Allah says if you respect yourself truly, i'zazun nafs, it means that you will not allow yourself to be lowered such that your actions are lower than the most vile human being you can find. No. The followers of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad are high in their behavior. That no matter how terrible the behavior of somebody else, no matter how bad the behavior of somebody else, their behavior is better. They will not lower themselves to anybody's level. This is what is called i'zazun nafs. I will not do anything to myself such that I lower myself. I will not allow myself to be humiliated, not in the eyes of people, but in my own eyes. I don't want to be humiliated in my own eyes. Why should I lower myself in front of anybody? So I must behave with the best of akhlaq. For this you read Du'a Makarim al-Akhlaq. Read Du'a Makarim al-Akhlaq of Al-Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. Number 3, Leenul Kanaf. Leenul Kanaf, it means when you speak to people and treat people, talk to them gently. The akhlaq of the Ahl al-Bayt. That when you deal with each other, deal with gentleness, kindness to each other. I'm going to ask you this, that will you ever be able to bring someone to your way of thinking by screaming and shouting at them, accosting them, calling them names? Have we seen anywhere in the history that our Habib Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam did this? وَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ Lin al-kanaf, لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. The word in the ayah is the same word. That it is by the mercy of Allah that Ya Habib, Ya Rasul, you were able to speak gently to them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. The ayah says it, that if you were hard and you spoke coarsely and rudely with them, they would have run away from you. And here Imam is saying, have leen al-kanaf, gentleness in the way you speak. Adopt these qualities. These are the qualities on which you build your society, build your community. The fourth thing, ta'ahud is-sani'a. Ta'ahud is-sani'a means that you are constantly thinking about the needs of other people. Constantly you are thinking about the needs of other people. You are fulfilling the needs of everybody else. You are thinking about what someone needs before they have to even ask you. They don't even open their mouth, they don't even look at you, they don't make a gesture at you, and you have given them what they needed. And I'm not talking about giving a plate of food, that is good. I'm not talking about material things. Even if you see somebody standing there and they are depressed and hurt, just to put a hand on their shoulder, just to smile at them. You don't see somebody in your center for a few days who regularly shows, pick up the phone and call them. Say, my brother, where are you? My sister, you haven't shown up, is everything okay? This is what it means to reach to that place. Brothers and sisters, when Al-Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, Al-Imam Al-Baqir says this, that when my father Ali Zainul Abidin died and we were washing his body, we were doing the ghusl, on his back there was a mark. There was a scar on his back. A big scar on his back. And when they said, Yabna Rasulullah, where is this big deep scar on his back from? He says, don't you know that in the middle of the night when everybody was asleep, he will take the bag full of food and he will sling it over his back. And he will go feed the poor people in the darkness of the night. They did not even know it was the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam who was feeding them. And that bag kept hitting his back and hitting his back that it made a permanent mark, a scar on his back. And the fifth thing, ada al-huquq. The fifth thing, brothers and sisters, means to fulfill the rights of somebody else. We each have right on each other. Allah has a right on us first. We have a right on ourselves, and creation and other people have a right on us. If Allah gives us something, Allah has given you this center, has He not? He has given you food and comfort and a place to gather and a place to build your society. Now you have to ask yourself, I have been given this gift, what is my duty in return? Not just that I will take the gift and take the gift and take the gift and not fulfill the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is my duty in return? My duty is to say, Allah gave me a place to gather, a safe place, a warm place, a place with a very nice kitchen, and a meeting hall, and children room, and speaker system. I wish I could tell you the types of places, and I'm sure some of you know this, where majlis happens across North America, in the small dingy basements, and I have even read in a garage majlis, because there's no place to meet. So now Allah has given you this, you have to say, what is my duty in return? You come home from work, and I'm addressing the men now directly. You come home from work, and your wife is kind enough to bring you a cup of hot tea, and she puts your food in front of your plate. Don't just eat it and say, well, this is my right and I have taken it. Yes, you have taken it, but now remember, what do I do in return? What is my duty in return? To fulfill her right on me. This is tafaqquh fi deen. This is deep understanding of religion and how to act and how to behave. Now in the time of Al-Imam As-Sadiq, this door opens. And Banu Abbas, they are scheming away. Now I will tell you some history, and I will tell you a bit of a long story. Stay with me, because I will get to my point at the end of this story. When the planning was happening of the Banu Abbas finally to take control, as Banu Umayyah are falling apart, their regime is breaking, Banu Abbas come into power, they meet in a secret place called Abawa. Abawa is between Mecca and Medina. They meet in Abawa. There are three Abbasi brothers, Ibrahim Imam, Abu Abbas al-Saffah, and Mansur. Alright, Mansur al-Dawaniqi. These three brothers. They meet. They're meeting, and along with them is a man named Abdullah ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. Did you get that? Abdullah ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. He is the grandson of Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, Imam al-Hasan. He is the great grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib. His name was Abdullah. They called him Abdullah al-Mahd. Abdullah al-Mahd, being the son of Hasan al-Muthanna, being the grandson of Imam Hasan, he comes to this meeting with Banu Abbas. He has some thoughts, some motives in his mind. They also call to this meeting Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam as-Sadiq is reluctant to attend, but he says, these are my relatives, I will go attend. They attend. In this meeting, Imam Sadiq remains silent. The three Abbasi brothers, Ibrahim, Imam, As-Saffah and Mansur, they are planning with Abdullah al-Mahd. And they are planning, they're all cousins with each other, they're planning that now Banu Umayyah is falling apart, we have to plan. And what they do is, Abdullah, he says, my son Muhammad, Abdullah al-Mahd, he says, my son Muhammad, we will agree that he will be the next Khalifa, because he is deserving of that position. I won't go into the details why. So now they say that the three Abbasi brothers, Ibrahim Imam, Mansur Dawaniqi and As-Saffah, they agree to this, they all stand and they say, yes, this is a good idea. As they are leaving, Abdullah al-Mahdi, he comes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, and he says, Yabna Rasulullah, you remained silent. Imam as-Sadiq, he says, what do you want me to say? He says, you are going down a path, you don't know the consequences of this path. You don't know the results of what is going to happen, but I can tell you this, that what you think you are going to get for your son, which is the Khilafah, you will never get it. You are not going to get it. Abdullah al-Mahd did not like this. He didn't like this, this statement of the Imams. And Imam was talking to another one, there was another companion there. He says to the companion, do you see that one wearing the yellow robe? He says he will never allow this young boy to come into power. He's talking about the Abbasi brother, one of the Abbasi brothers. So now, the Abbasis, they begin to get their power, control, okay? Ibrahim Imam, the older one, he goes off towards Syria to destroy the rest of the Umayyad regime. He starts to fight against them. Unfortunately, he gets caught, okay? Now, the Banu Abbas, these three brothers, they had two advisors with them. And I told you, it's a long story, but I will get to my point. They had two advisors. One, a man named Abu Salma Khalal, and the other one named Abu Muslim. Two advisors, they had chief advisors. Abu Muslim, they sent to Khurasan, to Persia. They said, you stay there, you get support for Banu Abbas over there in Persia. Abu Salma Khalal, they kept him in Iraq, and they said, look, you stay here in Iraq, and you ensure our support is good here in Iraq, in Kufa, in Basra, in Baghdad, in this area. So these two men are working. They did not like each other very much. They sort of despised each other because each one wanted more control. So now Ibrahim Imam, he goes towards Syria to fight the rest of the Umayyads, to kill them and to finish off their regime. He gets caught. And in a battle he dies. So the first Banu Abbas is dead. Now as he dies, before he dies, he sends a letter to Abu Salma, his minister in Iraq, and he says to him, after me, I am going to die. I will not make it out of here. You must appoint As-Saffah. You must appoint Abu Abbas As-Saffah to be the next Khalifa, the leader. Now they say Abu Salma Khalal, who was the minister in Iraq, he knew that As-Saffah is a crooked man. He knew he's a crooked man. He knew he is not worthy. And this man, Abu Salma, had a lot of influence. He had people who listened to him. He had soldiers, he had people who he could rally support immediately if he needed to. He was influential, he had power. That's why he was appointed as the minister. So now hearing that Saffah has been appointed as the next Khalifa and afraid that Saffah is going to ruin everything because of his corruption and his greed and his tyranny, he writes two letters. He writes two letters immediately, and he sends them with a messenger, and he tells the messenger, he says, take each of these letters to the person I have to tell you about, and don't let the other know that one has gotten the letter or the other has gotten the letter. Just say, this is a letter from me. Just say, this is a letter from me. Now they say the messenger takes the letters. He is instructed by Abu Salma Khalal that take the first letter and go to Abdullah al-Mahd, right? The great-grandson of Imam Hassan, who wants his son to be the Khalifa. He takes the letter, Abdullah opens the letter, and in it he reads from Abu Salma Khalal that I am telling you this in secret. that I am ready to give the power to you. I will give all the power to you. I will back you, all the money, all the support. Everybody in Iraq will support you. We will support you and your son to be the next Khalifa. He takes this letter. This is what he wanted. He wanted his son to become Khalifa. He becomes excited by it. The second letter, which was sent in secret by the messenger, was sent to Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. They say the messenger gets to Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. He is sitting in his room. The messenger comes in. He gives him the letter. Imam As-Sadiq looks at the messenger. He said, yes. He says, this letter is for you. The person, my master, who sent me with this letter told me to wait until I get a response from you, and I take that response back to him. I need an answer from you. Imam As-Sadiq, he says, okay. He calls one of the servants. He says, bring me a small little earthenware bowl, like a bowl, and light a fire in it. Light a fire in it. He lights a fire in it. Imam does not open the letter. He burns it straight. Doesn't even read it. Doesn't even read the letter. He burns it immediately. The messenger is looking at him like this, that, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what just happened? If you only knew what is in that letter. Imam says, I don't need to know what is in the letter. He says, I know the motives of the people sending the letter. I know what their goal is. I know what their end is. So the man says, what is your response? He says, you saw my response. You see what the response is. I burned the letter. Tell him that is the response. The messenger leaves. In the meantime, Abdullah al-Mahd, who received the letter, opened it and is excited now because he's got an opportunity, right? If somebody comes to you, you want power, you want regime, and they come and say to you, we'll support you with all these men and this wealth and this money, you will be excited. You're ready to go. You're ready to act. So he comes excitedly to Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, and he says, my cousin, I have got this support, I am ready to go. Imam As-Sadiq says, you are making a big mistake. Big mistake. Big mistake. You are making a big giant mistake, because you will not end up getting anything, and in fact it is going to cost you some lives. They say Abdullah al-Mahd becomes angry with the Imam because he says, you are just jealous, Ya ibn Rasulullah. Now could Imam not have taken the support and said, this is my opportunity to overthrow all these people who have been usurping my right? Imam could have done that, could he not? Imam can say, this man is going to support me. I have legitimacy. I am the son of Fatima. I am the son of Ali. I am the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. I have legitimacy. Let me go and fight. Imam burned the letter, didn't even read the letter. And he's telling his cousin, what you are doing is foolhardy, because you will never achieve what you want to achieve. And in fact, what happened? His son Muhammad, his name is Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya. You've heard of this? Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya. Why? And even the poet, Da'b al-Khuza'i, the poet of the Ahl al-Bayt, who read for Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, what does he say in his poem? مدارس آيات خلت من تلاوة ومنزل وحي مغفر العرصات لآل رسول الله بالخيف من منى وبالركن والتعريف والجمرات ديار علي والحسين وجعفر وحمزة والسجاد ذي الثفنات قفا نسأل الدار التي خف أهلها متى عهدها بالصوم والصلوات قبور بكوفان وأخرى بطيبة وأخرى بفخ نالها. The poem says there are some graves that are in Kufa, there are some graves that are in Medina, and there are some graves that are in Fakh, a place called Fakh. Who is buried in Fakh? Muhammad, the son of Abdullah al-Mahd. Why? Because this young boy, Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya, he rode out against the Banu Abbas and he was killed. And he was killed in such a manner that it resembles the slaughter of Karbala. He was killed. Do you think Abdullah al-Mahd achieved what he wanted to achieve? He achieved nothing. Yet our Imam sits there and says, you can go fight. You can go try to get by power, by possession. I am going to create a school. I am going to create a school with thousands of students who are going to learn, and they are going to spread the ilm of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. Please move forward. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. after that time, you get to the time, right? Everything is established in the time of Imam al-Sadiq, that the sciences of the Ahl al-Bayt, the methodologies of the Ahl al-Bayt now are spreading. They're spreading. They're spreading everywhere. Why? So that we today can have this knowledge. It is all about knowledge. It is all about understanding. It is all about two things, brothers and sisters: improving your relationship with God and using that improvement in your relationship with Allah to improve society. These two things, this is what our imamat showed us. With dua, with ilm, with practice, with adab, with akhlaq, with all of these things. All of these things, brothers and sisters. Now, the period that finished, the time that came after Imam al-Sadiq, which was the time of Imam al-Kadhim, Bab al-Hawa'ij, bi-abi wa ummi, the one who is known as the door who will fulfill your needs, al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. What can we say about his life? That how difficult it was. That they say that when Harun al-Rashid, he came to Medina, he saw Imam al-Kadhim sitting near the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salawat ala Muhammad. Harun, he comes and he says, my cousin. They would call it my cousin because they wanted to make it seem like we have this family bond between the Banu Abbas and the Banu Talib. He would say, my cousin, you know, you sit here, but near the grave of our relative, our grandfather, our relative Rasulullah, and you keep saying that he is your father, he is your father. Isn't it? Our imams, they say that Rasulullah is the father, is their father. He's the father of the imams. So now they say, Harun al-Rashid, la'natullahi alayhi, he says, O Musa ibn Ja'far, how can you say that Rasulullah is your father when you are the children of his daughter? You are not the children of his son. He did not have any sons who survived. You are the children of his daughter, Fatima al-Zahra. So how can you say you are his sons, and by virtue of that you claim that your imamat, your leadership, your guidance has come through Rasulullah, but through your mother, Fatima al-Zahra, through his daughter? How can you claim this? Shouldn't it be from father to son, father to son, father to son, father to son? Harun al-Rashid is saying this to Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Imam al-Kadhim, he says, Harun, have you read the Quran? Harun al-Rashid, he says, yes. The Banu Abbas, one thing about them, they were learned. They read the Quran, they studied. They were about learning and scholarship. Imam says to him, have you read the ayah of the Holy Quran that says, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوبَ وَيُوسُفَ وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ? From his children, talking about Ibrahim, the ayah describes Ibrahim's dhurriya, his children. Ibrahim's children were who? Dawood, Sulaiman, Ayub, Musa, Yusuf, Musa, Harun. All of them are great. The next ayah, Al-Imam al-Kadhim recites, وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا وَعِيسَى وَإِلْيَاسَ كُلٌّ مِّنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Also from the dhurriya of Ibrahim, the children of Ibrahim, were Zakaria, Yahya, Isa, Ilyas. All of them were good. So now Imam al-Kadhim, he says, have you read these ayahs talking about the dhurriya? Harun says, yes, this is a well-known ayah. These are all the children of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Imam al-Kadhim, he says, Harun, were these all prophets? He says, yes, they were all prophets. All of them. All of their names, they're all prophets. Aren't they? Dawood, Sulaiman, Ayub, Musa, Yusuf, Musa, Harun, Zakaria, Yahya, Isa, Ilyas. All of them prophets. All of them chosen by God. Al-Imam al-Kadhim, he says, Harun, how did the prophethood come to Isa alayhi salam? How did the prophethood come to Isa alayhi salam? Did it not come through his mother, since he did not have a father of his own? They say Harun al-Rashid became very angry because he knew there is no argument here that Fatima al-Zahra, she is Majma'ul Nurayn. She is the one who brings the nur of the Risala to the nur of the Imama and connects them together. Salawat ala Muhammad. you don't have to fight, you don't have to become aggravated. You give the evidence that is the Quran. And you say it is in front of you. You want to accept, you accept. You don't want to accept, don't accept. Now the time Harun al-Rashid, he knew that Al-Imam al-Kadhim cannot be left. So he sent his soldiers and they dragged him crying and weeping from the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They took him in chains. And he says, Ya Jaddi, Ya Rasulullah, ilayka ashku. He says, I complain to you, Ya Rasulullah, that they are taking me. And for how many years did he spend in the prisons? Al-Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. So much so that before his death, the last prison he spent in Baghdad, do you know what it was? They made a hole in the ground. It was not even a room with a door and a lock. It was a hole in the ground in which the Imam was made to stand. He could not even sit. It was so narrow. He will stand and they will seal the top of the hole with a rock. That was his prison. Imam Rida alayhi salam was called to Khurasan. He was given a little openness because of the Shi'as who were in Persia, and Ma'mun al-Abbasi la'natullahi alayh continued playing his games until he realized that even Imam al-Rida cannot be left, and he was poisoned. Brothers and sisters, the last period begins at 206. 206 is when Imam al-Rida dies, and now the final Imams come. Al-Imam al-Jawad, Al-Imam al-Hadi, Al-Imam al-Askari, and Al-Imam al-Hujja, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. The time for our Imams was very difficult, brutally difficult. Al-Imam al-Jawad was only 27 years when he died. Only 27 years old when he died. Al-Imam al-Hadi, his life was a little longer, but also brutally difficult. But what happened during this period? During the period of Al-Imam al-Jawad, Al-Imam al-Hadi, and Al-Imam al-Askari, slowly, the people could not see the Imams. Only specific, chosen, trusted people came and were able to see the Imams, and then they disseminated the information. Why? Because now there was too much danger. But for another reason, that the Imams were preparing us for a time when you will not be able to see the Imam with your eyes. The Imam will be there, but you have to get used to the fact that you will not see him, you will not talk to him, you will not be able to interact with him. They were preparing us. They were preparing the Shia, such that when our Imam, the Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, when he disappeared, the Shia were now prepared that our guide, our Imam, our light, our nur, our heart, which is the Imam, he is not with us physically in front of our eyes. We are going to turn to tafaqquh fi deen. We are going to hold on to the core of our religion, the core of our belief, our practices, our aqaid, our akhlaq, and we will ensure that the message that they started with their grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, it is not going to die. It will not die. And that's why I say to you today, practice tafaqquh fi deen. Brothers and sisters, Al-Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, when he was poisoned, he became very sick. And he was lying on the ground. He was spitting up blood from the poison. There was a bed in the room, but he would not sleep on the bed, he will lie on the ground. He will lie on the dirt, on the floor. So the companion came in. He said, Yabna Rasulullah, in your last moments you are dying, you are in so much pain and discomfort. The skin had become yellow. Blood was coming out. The companion, he said, Yabna Rasulullah, lie down on the bed. At least be in comfort in these last moments before your ruh leaves the body and you die. Imam al-Rida, he says, yes, I will lie on the bed, but what about Abi Abdullah al-Husayn, who was on Hussein, who is lying on the sands of Karbala. Brothers and sisters, all of the Imams, they cried for Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. And if there is something that will keep your connection to your Imam, it is the love of Imam Hussein. So that every time you take a drink of water and you quench your thirst, you say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. I drank this water and I remembered your ghurba, your thirst, your hatash on the day of Ashura. Brothers and sisters, they say one day, Al-Imam al-Hasan was sitting in the room. And Al-Imam al-Hussein, he comes into the room. And as he comes into the room, Al-Imam al-Hussein, he sees his brother and he begins to cry. He begins to cry, and so Al-Imam al-Hasan, he says, my brother, Ya Hussein, why are you crying like this? It is Al-Hussein who is crying. Al-Imam al-Hussein, he says, my brother, I am crying because of what they have done to you, what they are doing to you. The ones who are usurping and doing injustice and tyranny, I am crying because of what they are doing to you. Al-Imam al-Hasan, he says, Ya akhi, ya Aba Abdullah, إن الذي يؤتي إلي السم يدسه إلي فأقتل به. The one who comes and he will give me the poison, he will feed me the poison, or she will feed me the poison. I will eat that poison and I will die. ولكن لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. Al-Imam al-Hasan, he says, there is no day like your day, Ya Aba Abdullah. There is no day like the day of Ashura. Ya Aba Abdullah, 30,000 of the soldiers will come from the ummah of our grandfather, from the community of our grandfather, claiming that they are Muslimin, they are believers, and they will not stop until they spill your blood. They rob your possessions and they take your ladies prisoner and captive. Brothers and sisters, on the day of Ashura, Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, one by one he is picking up the bodies of the shuhada. Brothers and sisters, imagine the heart of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, the ghurba of Al-Imam al-Hussein, the pain of Al-Imam al-Hussein, that Habib ibn Madahir, he calls, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussein goes and brings the body. Muslim ibn Awsaja calls, Imam Hussein runs to the body. Hurr al-Riyah, he calls, he says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussein races out to the body. John, he falls from the horse, he calls and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Aba Abdullah. And Imam Hussein rushes out to the body, one by one picking up the dead bodies himself and bringing them back to the grave, bringing them one at a time. Now he has to pick up the body of Ali al-Akbar, Shabih Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, the one who resembles Rasulullah. He has to bring him back to the encampment, bring him back to the tents. Now Al-Imam Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, he is standing there in the battlefield. All of a sudden they say, a young boy comes out to him. He says, Ya Amma, Ya Amma, أتأذن لي بالقتال يا Amma. My uncle, give me permission to go out to the battlefield. Let me go out and fight in the battlefield. Please, my uncle, allow me to go and fight in the battlefield. They say Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, he wants permission to go. This is the son of Al-Hasan. This is the nephew of Al-Imam al-Hussein. They say Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, he's begging Imam Hussein for permission. Imam Hussein, he says, no, I cannot give you permission. أنت وديعة أخي يا قاسم. You are the trust of my brother Al-Hassan. He placed you in my trust. He placed you in my care. How can I send you out to the battlefield? They say, Al-Qasim ibn Al-Hassan. He goes back to the camp. And after some time again he comes back. He says, Ya Amma, Ya Aba Abdillah, I cannot bear to watch how they are attacking my family. I cannot bear to watch as they are killing your companions. Please, Ya Aba Abdullah, give me permission. Give me some chance to go out to the battlefield. Al-Imam Al-Husayn, he says, Ya Qasim, kayfa tara al-maut? Oh Qasim, how do you see death? What is death to you? Qasim, he says, Ya Amma, innaha ahla min al-asal. Oh my uncle, it is sweeter to me than honey. I am ready for death. فعانقه أبا عبد الله وبكى. Imam Hussein clutched onto Qasim. He began to cry and Qasim began to cry. Imam Hussein, he says to Qasim, he says, Bunayya Qasim, araka tamshi ila al-maut birijlayk. I see you, my son Qasim. You are walking towards death that is waiting for you in the battlefield. Qasim, he says to his uncle, Ya Amma, Ya Amma, وكيف لا يكون وأراك بقيت وحيدا لا ناصر لك. How is it that I should not walk into that arms of death? How is it that I should not want to go to the battlefield? When I see you, my uncle, you are left all by yourself. There is nobody here with you. Let me go out, Ya Aba Abdullah. Al-Imam Al-Husayn, he holds on to Qasim. Qasim ibn Al-Hassan, he says, my uncle, ruhi li ruhika al-fida wa nafsi li nafsika al-waqa. My uncle, my soul be sacrificed for you. Take from me, ya my uncle, let me die defending you. They say Al-Imam Al-Husayn, he took Qasim by the hand. They went back to the tent. In the tent he pulled out a box. A trunk is pulled out and he opens it up. From inside of this box, Imam Hussein, he pulls out the amama of his brother Al-Hassan. He pulls the turban of Al-Hassan out of the box. He places it on the head of Qasim. The Rawi says he splits the cloth of the amama. He tears it in half. He breaks the cloth of the turban and he drapes two sides of it across the chin of Qasim. He drapes the cloth of the turban around the neck of Qasim. He pulls the sword of Al-Hassan ibn Ali. He takes the sword of his brother and gives it to Qasim. He puts the armor on the body of Qasim. Aywa Husayna, Aywa Mazluma. Our poor Imam, how is he supposed to send his nephew to the battlefield? He began to prepare Qasim. They say, brothers and sisters, Qasim began to walk to the battlefield. He starts to make his way. The history describes, brothers and sisters, that Qasim was so small. He was such a young boy that the sword is dragging in the sands of Karbala. He is so small, the sword is dragging in the sand. He gets on to the horse and he says, In tankuruni
فأنا نجل الحسن. If you don't know who I am, he's talking to the enemy soldiers. He says, if you do not know who I am the son of Al-Hasan ibn Ali. I am the son of Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, the grandson of Rasulullah. He goes out to the battlefield and he fights the enemy soldiers. Brothers and sisters, one by one they attack him. Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan defeats them from one side, fights them off from another side. In the middle of the battle, they say that his sandal that is on his foot, one of the straps is broken. Like a child does, not paying attention, he stops in the middle of the battlefield and begins to fix the strap of the sandal. He is watching the sandal and not looking at the enemy soldiers. He is preoccupied with his sandal. The enemy soldiers, they say, let us attack this young boy now. One by one they begin to attack Qasim. One by one they surround him. فضربوه بأسيافهم وجاء لعين آخر وضربه على رأسه بسيفه. Another enemy soldier came. He lifted up his sword and struck Qasim on his head. Qasim begins to fall from his horse. He says, Ya Amma, Ya Amma, Assalamu alayka Ya Amma, Adrikni, Adrikni. I am falling, my uncle. Come to my help. I am falling. Imam Hussein charges the battlefield. He races out to the battlefield. He fights the soldiers off. But brothers and sisters, the enemy soldiers, they are so cowardly, they are so afraid of Al-Imam al-Hussein that they begin to run in all different directions. They escape in all different directions. Their horses are stamping on the ground of Karbala. As Imam Hussein comes, the dust of Karbala is rising to the air. The dirt is coming into the air. Imam Hussein cannot see Qasim. He cannot see anybody because of the dust. He says, Ya Qasim, call to me, where are you? Let me hear your voice. فانجلت الغبرة فإذا بقاسم صريع على الأرض. Imam Hussein, when the dust settles to the ground, Imam Hussein sees the body of Qasim lying on the ground of Karbala. From the stamping of the horses, from the kicking of their legs, the body of Qasim has been broken to pieces. فجاء إليه أبو عبد الله وهو يفحص برجليه. His legs have been broken and Qasim is gone. Imam Hussein, he says, Ya Qasim, يعز على عمك أن تدعوه ولا يجيبك أو يجيبك فلا يعينك أو يعينك فلا يغني عنك. Oh Qasim, your uncle has come. It is paining me in my heart. You called me, Ya Qasim, and I could not answer you. Even though I answered you, I could not help you. The history describes, brothers and sisters, that Imam Hussein picks up the body of Qasim ibn al-Hasan. He is holding the chest of Qasim on his chest. He is walking back to the tent. But the history also says, brothers and sisters, that the legs of Qasim were so broken by the stamping of the horses, they are dragging in the sands of Karbala. They are part of the sand of Karbala. They have been broken from the body. How are they going to bring Qasim back to the tent? Who is going to console the lady?
وسيعلم الذين ظلموا على محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. 10 times. يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم إنا نسألك بحق محمد وأنت المحمود. اللهم إنا نسألك بحق علي وأنت العلي الأعلى. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands high and ask in the name of Fatima to Zahra, in the name of Fatima to Zahra, in the name of Bid'at Rasulillah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka bihaqq Fatima wa anta fatiru as-samawati wal ard. In the name of the daughter of your Prophet, Ya Allah, we are asking you. اللهم إنا نسألك بحق الحسن وأنت المحسن، ونسألك بحق الحسين الشهيد وأنت قديم الإحسان، ونسألك بحق التسعة المعصومين من ولد الحسين. فرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب من ذلك، وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات.